Welcome back, Fantasy Endgame family, Fantasy Endgame baseball players. We're back for our midweek Q&A. So we are about 1 week into the season now. I think officially tomorrow will be 1 week, but there's hardly any games tomorrow. So we're basically 1 week into the season, already plenty to talk about. And of course, the biggest news, whether it's fantasy baseball, baseball in general, sports in general, torpedo bats. Pierre, what is your take on the torpedo bats? Are these going to change the game forever, or was this just something because Nestor Cortez served up batting practice to the Yankees in game one and now everybody's talking about it? What is your take on the torpedo bats? Because we are seeing other players now starting to use the torpedo bats.
Oh, it's going to be a thing. You know it's going to be a thing because everybody's talking about it. But also after what the Yankees did to the Brewers, yeah, all the teams are trying to figure out real quick how they can make their own. And apparently some are trying, which is kind of funny, with baseball being one of those sports that kind of gets made fun of, and rightly so, because sometimes it gets stuck in the past, right? Things you can and can't do. And it's like, how did nobody ever figure out? There was actually a good article in Fangraphs today about the torpedo bats. There isn't really a whole lot in the rule book about the bats. It's just they have a minimum, and a maximum length and a width. But as far as like the shape and the barrel, like there really isn't anything against this. They're legal, right? They're being used. And a lot of other teams are like, hey, that's a good idea. We should do that. It's going to start spreading. It's going to start spreading pretty quickly, I'm sure. But we also have to keep in mind that this is because it's the Yankees. It's not just because they were really good over the weekend. It's because it's in New York and it's the biggest market and everybody's hearing about it because of that. Because if like the A's were using torpedo bats, they hit some home runs, people would be like, that's cute. It's the Yankees, so
right.
Everyone's going to start following suit. But that said, I don't think that means Aaron Judge is going to hit 90 home runs this year. We don't want to overreact to this.
Right. And, we saw the other night, the Yankees bats did nothing, and it's still early in the game, but so far tonight they've done nothing. So, yeah, I don't think this is like a baseball cheat code or anything. You still got to hit the ball, and you still got to hit the ball in the sweet spot with the right launch angles. And these are still good pitchers. They're facing. Now, not necessarily fantasy relevant, but, we're talking baseball here. We got two teams atop the standings right now. Of course, the Dodgers are 7-0. Everybody expected that. But what about the Padres at 7-0? They've been good, not only in real life, but for fantasy. Is this sustainable? Are we seeing the Padres ready to, potentially make a championship run here?
I think it's possible. I don't want to, go too far because obviously you don't want to just assume, like everyone just assumed, like the Dodgers are already in the World Series. It's not that simple, right? They should be, but you still have to win in the postseason, which they proved they can do. But doing it back to back is hard, right? So, anyways, a lot of things can go south for them. The Padres have the talent, and the main thing I look at with the Padres that I like is, their rotation isn't amazing on paper. You look at it, obviously they have some frontline starters. Dylan Cease is great. And even though he was horrible in his first start, I'm still, pretty high on Michael King, as everyone else should be. And the back end of the rotation, you're like, it's pretty sketchy. But Nick Pivetta could be sneaky good this year. This is the best ballpark situation he's ever had. He's a veteran. He'll be a little volatile, but I think he's a good, solid kind of mid-rotation arm. I mentioned Kyle Hart in the preseason could be one of those boring but effective pitchers who's better in real life, if not great for fantasy, but, kind of like the next Eric Fetty type guy who remade himself overseas and comes back. Randy Vasquez, again, is not exciting for fantasy, but he's been solid. They're going to get Darvish back maybe at some point. And so I really think that the Padres are legit, I guess I could say. They're legit competition for the Dodgers. But I will also now say that you have to be careful of not conflating real life and fantasy, because a team could win games and not have a lot of fantasy relevant players and vice versa.
Yeah, and one thing, speaking of the Padres, Not only are they winning games, they are swiping bases. O'Neal Cruz. The Cruz, of course, leading the league in stolen bases, but not the Cruz we wanted or expected. O'Neal Cruz. Well, he's at the Pirates, actually. My bad. He's at the Pirates. Speaking of the Pirates, I'll get to him in a second. Tatis, second in steals with 5. Machado tied for third with 4. Even Xander Bogaerts has 3, tied for 6. But the Pirates, I was going to say, also swiping a lot of bags. Cruz, not the one we wanted or expected, leading the league in steals. O'Neal Cruz was 6. Then, as everybody predicted, Isaiah Kiner Falefa, is that how you pronounce it? 4 stolen bases here. I mean, we got a couple of Rays who aren't doing anything, leading, up there in the leaders of steals. So is this just a change? Like, are these teams, you think this is a conscious effort by these teams saying, hey, we're going to attempt more steals this year. We're going to try to pick up free bases. And is this something where, if you have these players, did you suddenly, unexpectedly draft into a ton of steals?
Absolutely, it happens. And you're actually the one who noticed that and pointed this out. Obviously it's a little early to take away too much, but still, this is something that absolutely is a managerial decision, whether to send runners or not, to be aggressive on the base paths or not. We're not talking about a guy like, okay, Victor Scott. Yeah, of course he's going to steal bases because that's why he's in the game, because he's crazy fast. Okay, that just makes sense. But you got guys like Manny Machado and Xander Bogaerts who in their day have stolen some bases, but are, a little older and, you don't expect them to steal as much, but they're all of a sudden among the league leaders. That means the Padres are saying, look, we're going to be aggressive. We're doing this intentionally. And you always have to look, if you want to look for steals, yeah, you look for fast players. That makes sense. But you have to look for the teams that attempt steals, because a lot of times there's players that could steal, but they don't get the green light because they're just not in the right offense, and then vice versa. So last year was Washington who stole or attempted the most steals. And now we got to look at the Pirates. We got to look at the Padres, I guess. Look for that. Again, things could change because it's only been a week, but Boston is up there too. They have a lot of players who can steal. And so I always look for the teams that want to run.
Yep, definitely. And then speaking of, it's only been a week. Is it too soon to panic or celebrate, based on how players have done here? So Mike Trout had been looking like an absolute bust this year. Finally hit a home run today. But there are some players that have been absolute busts, like Rafael Devers, been absolutely horrible to start the year. And there's been some, very surprising guys like Elliot Ramos of the Giants, a couple that come to mind right off the bat. So where are you at after week 1 as far as, what the player has done at this point of the season versus what you thought of them earlier, in the preseason and the draft process? And would you flip on somebody like, I'm going to throw somebody out, Jake Berger, who I drafted and was like, oh gosh, he's going to be a bust. Why did I draft this guy? And so far, I feel like he's going to be a bust. So where is there anybody at this point in the season where you're like, oh crap, this guy might be a bust, or oh crap, this guy might actually be really good? Or are you still sticking to your preseason valuation?
I mean, look, you don't want to do anything drastic. I can't say it's too early to overreact when I already put out a panic video and I already put out a buy low video. So obviously I think it's okay to trade. And that's one thing I say is look, if you want to trade, go. Don't say don't make people, make you think oh, you have to wait until this day. You can't trade in the first week or the first 2 weeks. Why not? You want to make a trade, then make a trade, right? If you think it's going to help you, do it now while you can. But it depends on the player, right? It really does. You don't want to go and do something hasty. So if it's a guy like Devers with a track record and the extreme ability, no, you don't drop Devers. You don't sell low on Devers. If it's a guy you took later in the draft who's kind of like a flyer and he's looking horrible, that's fine. You know what? You don't have to sit and wait for him 2 more weeks to suck to decide he's not good. It's okay. You can cut bait. So it just really depends on the player. But I think we can look first and foremost. What I'll say is don't just look at the stats. Don't look at the batting average because that's very misleading. Look at the skill, look at the situation, look at the underlying stats. So, for example, I just put out in today's bylaw talking about Mason Wynn. Didn't have a hit like at all. Well, I think he had one hit, but he's hitting the ball harder this year, and he's still in the same situation. So he's had a horrible week, but I'm not giving up on him. But if a guy his bat speed is slower, his plate discipline is much worse, give it a little bit of time. Monitor right now. I would say watch closely, but just don't do anything extreme.
All right, well, let's really quick. Let's throw some names out there of players that were fairly highly drafted, but are off to really terrible starts. Let's start with somebody on my team. Now, I won't go Jake Berger. How about Mark Vientos? Currently 2 for 19 with 1 RBI and 2 runs, and went a hefty 0 for 5 today. This is a guy who is 95% rostered in Yahoo leagues. Like, if he's your only third baseman, are you okay just benching him and just taking nothing at third base until he gets it going? Because that's where I'm at right now. I'm like, would I rather have 0 for 5 in my lineup or just nothing? I think I'd rather just have nothing.
Well, I mean, yeah, you'd rather have 0 for 0 than 0 for 5. But I mean, look, again, it's too early. Which, by the way, now I'm thinking, because you're talking about your team. Did you change your team name?
Yes, because my team somehow is horrible. These guys cannot hit. The bomb squad can't hit bombs, let alone even base hits. Can't even get base hits out here. Terrible team.
Because I'm looking at your options, I realize you're not the bomb squad. You changed it to the Ofer squad, which
yes. So the last 2 days, my team. I know this isn't about us, but the last 2 days, my team is a combined 11 for 79. 11 for 79, and I have like 99. Like I have, let's see. Okay, like Anthony okay, he did go 2 for 4 today. Jackson Merritt, but like Adolis Garcia, this guy, Cal Raleigh has been horrible except for that 1 home run.
Well, that's what happens if you take a bunch of sluggers. It's all or nothing, right? That's like Vientos will eventually have a game where he hits 2 home runs or drives in 4 or 5, and he's going to have a lot of overs. That's just how he is. I will say this. It's easy for me to say now, but I was worried about his bust potential. I knew there was some bust potential there. It's a little early to call him a bust. Here's the problem is you can sit him tomorrow. Like, sure, and maybe you avoid an 0 for 4. But then you already know what I'm going to say. Yes. You know what happens. As soon as you bench him, right? I'm okay, though, if you're really concerned. If he looks bad, which he does, you can bench him and just put somebody, a lot safer in his place. Somebody who's going to get you a couple hits. And
I don't even have another third baseman. That's the problem here. I don't have another. Jake Berger is my other third baseman, but then I'll have a first baseman. But he's been terrible, too. He does have 1 home run, 1 meaningless home run, but he's been terrible.
Berger hasn't been bad. He'll do something. Look, you know what? I'm looking at our waiver wire now. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, get you some steals.
I know. I saw him out there, but we'll see. I don't really have anybody to drop. That's the problem. Unless I drop a pitcher. But anyways, this isn't about my team, even though I will say one thing for the bomb squad, or now for the Ofer squad. I have 8 home runs on my bench. How do you avoid that? How do you avoid, like, the guys I drafted later in the draft starting the season hot, and the guys I drafted to be my starters starting slow? And then, like, I literally did one where Shea Langolier hit a home run and Cal Raleigh was doing nothing. So then I put Shea Langolier in the very next day. And of course, that was the day Cal Raleigh finally hit a home run. So then I put Cal Raleigh back in, and then Shea Langolier hit a home run again. So I literally missed all those home runs. I'm like throwing my phone. I quit.
All right. This, I don't know if it'll make you feel better, but it'll I don't know. It'll get it out of my system. This relates to Eric's question. I have in an NL only league, NL only. I had Ivan Herrera on my bench because being clever, right? Knowing that Herrera doesn't play every day, right? So I was like, okay, so I got Pedro Pajes, their other catcher, because yesterday Herrera didn't start. Pajes started. So I put him in my lineup. I'm like, clever me. Well, guess who forgot to switch their lineup today and had Pajes in on the bench in his lineup while Herrera was on my bench hitting 3 home runs and 6 RBIs. So yeah. Herrera is not going to hit a lot of home runs this year, so I would say don't overreact to this game. Pajes looked good yesterday when he played. He's still going to play a fair amount. It's going to be like I'd say like a maybe 2/3 Herrera, 1/3 Pajes, something like that. But he's still in a one catcher league. He's totally startable. Just know he's not going to play every day.
Yeah, I think actually this I think is my problem. Well, I have two problems. Number one, I'm not very good at this game. I don't research it or study it. That's probably the biggest problem. Let's be real here. But my other problem is this: I have good players. Like I have Tyler O'Neill, Cal Raleigh, Corey Seager, Ian Happ, Ezekiel Tovar. These are my bench players. I think it would have been better off if I just drafted like one or two bench hitters and then just all pitchers and just not have to think about it, right? Just know who I'm starting every day. Now I got to because too often a guy goes off on my bench. It's so frustrating. It's like the worst. It's like,
Well, I mean, look, there's two ways to look at it. When you have more depth on offense, then it helps you, right? Have more options. But then if you don't want homers or steals and stuff on your bench, then the only way to avoid that is just not have a bench. So I guess you could do it that way.
Well, I can't drop those guys though. They're too good to drop. So
yeah, but then as soon as an injury happens, right, you're like, why do I need a backup first baseman? I have Freddie Freeman. And then Freddie Freeman slips in the shower and then he's not playing for a week. So it's like, okay, I usually don't have that many pitchers on my bench. Well, but it also depends on your team, right? If you drafted aces, you have like 3 really, really good pitchers. Why do you need 5 pitchers on your bench, right? You don't need that. But so it kind of depends. But for your build, since you waited on pitcher, maybe you should kind of go quantity over quality.
I know. I've been thinking about sending out some 2-for-1 offers and trimming down my lineup.
Nothing wrong with that.
All right. But anyways, that's not why you're here. Not here to hear us talk about our heartaches and fantasy baseball teams, although maybe it makes us a little more relatable when you hear like 8 home runs on my bench this week. 8.
It happens to all of us.
Anyways, let's get to your questions here because that's why you're here. Let me just remind you, of course, bring this up here. Hold on one second. I didn't have this ready. Let me remind you. Okay, here we go. There's still a game tonight that has not started. Dodgers, Braves. If you want to get your pick'ems in, this is a great time to do it. Go to Underdog Fantasy. Join using promo code ENDGAME. You can see it scrolling down there at the bottom. Because they will give you a free pick, which is like, boom, a win right off the bat. And up to $1,000 in bonus cash that you can use on pick'ems. And they have pick'ems every day of the baseball season, not to mention NBA, NHL, college basketball, golf, everything. You can see it up there, everything UFC, Counter-Strike. I don't even know how you do Counter-Strike, but they have it, whatever. Esports, they have it. And of course, if you play fantasy football, which I know a lot of you do, this is huge during the football season as well. So if you're new and you haven't tried it out yet, go try it out. Make sure, like you see right there, scroll on the bottom, use promo code ENDGAME. And then also want to say we will answer as many questions as we can tonight, of course. If you don't want to wait, if you're impatient, you want to jump to the front of the line, you can use that super chat feature. Or if you just appreciate all the hard work that goes into the channel and you just want to say thanks or you're feeling generous, you can drop a super chat. Not necessary, just throwing that option out there. And as always, feel like every stream we do, Harry is the first question of the stream. And once again, Harry, the first question. Appreciate you, Harry. All right, let's talk closers, something I don't deal with. Miami, Detroit, Pittsburgh, Cincy. Do you have any idea who the closers are here? And are there any you'd add off waivers, I guess, more important?
Let's start with Miami. We went there first. The closer was, and I think still is, Calvin Foucher. Of course, today didn't help his cause. Blew a save and gave up 3 runs. So Foucher was the one who came in a couple days ago, got a save. It cleared up a little bit because the guy I like, Jesus Tinoco, is on the IL, so he's kind of out of the picture for now. I think Foucher is going to be mainly the guy, but if he has another bad outing like today, then he won't be. But this could kind of be a committee. It's kind of what manager Clayton McCulloch said it was going to be. So don't be surprised if you see a little bit of Bender, a little bit of, whoever's available. So for now, tentatively Foucher. As far as Cincinnati, I'll go with them next because that's the one we're really curious about. The one I'm most confident in is Emilio Pagan. He's probably their best late inning option right now. I don't think I would even recommend anybody else, to be honest. So if you're speculating on saves there, I think it's Pagan. Pittsburgh, who knows? Somehow they don't even have like a backup option. I don't know why they even thought Bednar was going to be good still, but he's in AAA now, so it's obviously not him, nor should it be. Probably the top 2 options are either Colin Holderman, or Dennis Santana, who I'm guessing might be the guy they use. But that's just basically a mess. So you might just want to avoid that situation. Not that they win many games anyways. And then Detroit, it's also one of those teams where even last year when they had Foley, which I don't know what he did. I mean, I guess he didn't have a good spring, but still, I didn't expect him to get demoted. It'd probably be some Holton, some Vest, some Tommy Canley, but it's just going to be a committee too. So hard to recommend one guy. I mean, I guess Holton probably would be your most likely option right now.
All right, there you go, Harry. Hope that helped you out. And as always, thank you for being on here and being first. And then we got Carl, always on here. What's up, Carl? Now he wants to know, I think he's got a catcher question here. Ruiz over Heim. He says, got Salvi, I assume Sal Perez, as his backup for first and catcher. So with Freeman day-to-day, I assume he's playing Sal Perez at first base, so he needs a better option at catcher. You like Ruiz or Heim better?
Well, not knowing your league, gotta think you might have a better option on the waiver wire at first base. I don't know if you do. So that way you can just put Sal at catcher and maybe have somebody else in your lineup while Freeman is out. Now, Freeman shouldn't be out a long time. So hopefully this is a short term. So right now, if it's just a short term, couple day streamer, yeah, go Ruiz.
All right, there you go, Carl. Go Ruiz. And then William dropping in to say Crochet is murdering the Orioles right now, and he is not wrong. 8 innings pitched, no runs given up, 4 hits allowed, 8 strikeouts. And he was pretty good his first outing. Are we seeing Garrett Crochet becoming like an ace? We've seen him becoming an ace.
I said, I didn't draft pitcher early hardly anywhere. Probably not realistically, not anywhere. But hypothetically, if I was going to draft a pitcher in the first 3 to 4 rounds, it was going to be Crochet. That's what I said. Garrett Crochet why is he not going to be an ace this year? There's no reason. I think everything that he did last year in the first half can carry over to the whole season this year. So, this doesn't surprise me.
And for those of you who drafted Rafael Devers, he is 2 for 4 with an RBI today. So some signs of life.
He lives.
All right, and Carl again wants to know, he's got another Dodger relief pitcher jumped up in points with 2 holds and 1 save. What are your thoughts on Alex Vesla? Did you drop Springs, Keller, Buehler, or Buxton for Vesla?
If your league counts holds, then for points, sure. I don't know about Buehler. I don't know if he's going to be worth holding on to. I think you can drop Buehler for Vesia and keep the rest of the guys. Bautista, yeah, but Look, Batista is not going to get all the save ops early. They even said they're going to play it slow with him. So yeah, but Batista, not scary. I don't think he should scare you, but he's not going to give you as many saves as you wanted.
All right, there you go, Carl. Thanks for that one. And then Rico, this is kind of what we were talking about earlier with bench spots, how you would use them. First of all, in a category leagues, how many bench catchers would you have? And how many relievers would you have? Assuming 6 bench spots. So how many catchers and relievers would you have in a category league? So I'm assuming just saves probably for relievers.
Yeah, assuming it's typical categories. I mean, well, first of all, I said this before with catchers is if you have one of those top guys like a Rushman, a Will Smith, one of those, you don't need a backup. I don't think you do. If he gets hurt, you just pluck somebody off waivers, and that's that. If you have somebody who's, kind of a platoon like a lot of catchers are, one catcher is plenty. Like if it's a one catcher league, you never should have more than 2 catchers overall. As far as relievers go, if it's your typical 5x5, I like to have at least one solid, if not elite closer. I like to have one at least good enough closer option, someone who can get me saves. And then one, depending on your roster makeup, 1 or 2 on the bench. So I usually wouldn't have more than 4 overall relievers in like a 5x5 roto league.
All right, there you go. Thank you, Rico. And then MJ Bonk just saying good evening, saying looking forward to another fantasy season. Love the content. Appreciate that. We're looking forward to it as well. All right, F. What's up, F? Always here. Thoughts on Kyron Paris?
Yeah, he's doing a little something, and I think he also has a couple of steals, if I'm not wrong. He's getting playing time. He's nice. He's a nice player. He's versatile. A little bit of speed, not a lot of power. I think he could wind up being a guy that settles into your middle infield spot if you have one. I don't think he's got the upside to be like your everyday second base or shortstop or whatever. And now I guess he's playing some outfield too. So a nice kind of utility, maybe bench type of player. So obviously he's going to steal some bases. But I don't think he's somebody who they necessarily have big long-term plans for. He's there. I'm kind of surprised with the way the Angels are as far as being aggressive in their prospects that Christian Moore didn't make the squad. At some point, Christian Moore is going to be up. He'll be their second baseman. And then not too long from now, hopefully, Zach Neto is going to be back. He's their shortstop. So that really pushes Paris to either a utility role or the outfield. So I think he's fine. But again, I wouldn't expect a huge season.
All right. Appreciate that. And then Eric, who brought up Ivan Herrera in his 3-homer game, wants to know, AJ Puck, who does have 1 save this year, is he going to win the closer role in Arizona? What do you think?
I think he's got the closer role, and we'll see if he holds on to it. And in all preseason, I was saying Justin Martinez probably a little bit overdrafted. AJ Puck was being underdrafted or undervalued. I think Puck's the guy you want, not Martinez. So again, they'll mix and match. Like nobody here is getting 100% of the saves, but I think right now it is Puck.
And then we talked about Bus a little earlier. We did not mention this. This was some big news. Jurickson Profar suspended for PEDs. So yeah, if you drafted him, because that did not turn out well. But he'll be back, right? Isn't it like 80 games, half the season?
Only half the season.
Are you holding him, or are you just cutting bait?
Well, and it's funny because in our league, our endgame league, I have him. So I'm on the fence. I still have him. Obviously, I haven't dropped him yet. What's really annoying about this is that he's not hurt. So you can't put him in the IL spot. You either have to keep him on your bench, or at least in terms of Yahoo, I don't know, other leagues, might count suspended players differently. So do I want to occupy a bench spot for a player for half the season who's good? Like he's good, but he's not elite, right? He's not like you have to keep him, but he's not an instant drop either. So look, in our league, we have enough bench spots where I can keep him for now, and I don't feel like I need to drop him. I might eventually, but right now I'm holding. If you have a thin bench, I don't think you have to hold him.
All right, there we go. And now Maxwell has a dynasty question. We like dynasty questions. Welsh, don't know who that is, recommended Mason Montgomery for future closers once he gets the chance. Are there any other future closers you highly recommend? So ones that maybe aren't closing yet, but could be by season's end.
Yeah, Montgomery is a very interesting name. The one I mentioned when I talked about those potential closers who aren't necessarily the guy in the preseason, this was draft season, in Tampa was Edwin Uceda, but I think a lot of people already know about him. So if it's Dynasty League and you're looking at possible closers, he's probably already owned. I think by now, everybody really knows about Seth Halverson, who I talked about again. He, I guess, now is officially the closer. If it's Dynasty, I'm assuming that maybe a high-end prospect like a Chase Dollander, also in Colorado, is owned, although I'm not sure. Potential future closers that you want to close this season? Well, again, and also we're looking for dynasty, right? We want young arms. So Emiliano Teodo for the Rangers did make the club, but I think he could get the call up at some point. He is potentially a starter, but also more likely to be a late inning guy early on. So Teodo is somebody to keep an eye on. Obviously, Jacob Mizrowski, if he's not already owned, it means dynasty, so he should be, but he's a very obvious one. Potential closers, like actually with a chance to get saves. Trying to think if there's any other situations where a guy that you actually want might get the job. I mean, Ben Joyce, I don't know if that's too obvious, but maybe Ben Joyce is another one I like.
All right, there you go. Thank you, Maxwell. Now, Steve wants to know about Jake Magnum. I wish his name was Magnum. That'd be cool, but it's actually Mangum, I believe.
Mangum. Yeah.
But it would be way better if it was Magnum. But he's off to a red-hot start so far. He's batting .533. He's got 3 stolen bases, 8 hits. Does not have a home run, but that's probably not his game. So what are your thoughts on him? Is this for real, or is he just off to a good start? He is 29 years old. I've never heard of this guy, so.
Yeah, and neither has anybody else. I had not heard of him either. Let me ask you this, because obviously we do this for multiple sports. You're good with names. Do you remember Rhys Hines from last year?
Yes, I do.
What has he done so far this year? Nothing, because he's not on the team.
Yeah, I was going to say probably nothing.
Because he didn't even make the team. All right, Rhys Hines had a crazy hot week, maybe 2 weeks. I don't know. Look, it's a nice story. I'm sure he's a nice kid. But I don't think we should view this as anything more than just a hot streak. So, like, if you want, but I always say this, even if a guy comes out of nowhere and has a hot week, it's okay to pick him up and ride it until he cools off and then drop him. So if you want to do that, that's fine, but just don't be surprised when that happens.
Yes. 29-year-old out of nowhere. Hey, like the natural.
Yeah. I mean, you never know.
Hopefully everybody here has seen The Natural, but maybe not. We might have a younger crowd. I'm not sure. All right. How about we have F always on here? How about A? Now we have A. So we're starting to fill the alphabet here. Okay. He's got a 5x5 roto league. Needs help at first base. He's thinking of trading DeGrom for Christian Walker. So is Christian Walker enough for DeGrom? His starting pitching is very solid, he says.
I think he's enough, but I think you could get more. So Walker's fine. I think Walker's solid, but DeGrom looking really good in his first start, and everyone's hopes sky high for him. I think you could probably do better. So maybe wait. Now, of course, you run the risk that he gets hurt and, oh, well, there goes Grom. But look, it's still early. Let's give him another start. If he looks really good in his second start, I think you can aim higher and get maybe even a better first baseman. So always shop around, try to get the best you can. Somebody else out there is going to be as high or higher in DeGrom as you were, I bet. So that's what I would do. I would wait a little bit longer and people have a little more confidence in DeGrom, a little more hype, and then try to aim a little bit higher.
All right, there you go. Thank you, A, and welcome. And I like this comment from Carl. This is going back talking about like when you see like the home runs on your bench. It's like beating yourself up daily. Yes, exactly. Like fantasy football ruins your Sundays, maybe your Thursday nights. Fantasy baseball like ruins every day. There was a few days ago when Ellie De La Cruz finally had that big game, and like a few of my I had like this huge I was like, yeah, this is great. But all these other days, it's like this sucks. That sucks. Daily pain in fantasy football or fantasy baseball. All right, we got, I don't even know, pink elephants. I'm gonna say pink elephants because his icon is a pink elephant. All right,
nice.
Would you advise dropping Clay Holmes for Max Mayer? Max Mayer had a nice start. I don't know what Clay Holmes did. I don't know if he did well or not. Jordan Hicks, Mitchell Parker, David Peterson, by the way, a monster if you streamed him this week. And Soriano was good last week if you streamed him. So would you drop Clay Holmes for any of those guys? This would be his starting pitcher 9 or 10 out of 10 in a 10-team league.
Yeah. All right. So first, Clay Holmes, second start, kind of the same as the first. He wasn't bad, but here's the problem is he didn't even go 5 innings. I don't think either start. I think both times 4 2/3. So I do think that eventually, you got to remember, it's his first time being in the starting rotation, right? He's going from being a closer, a guy who never went really more than 2 innings, to now being a starter. I think he gets stretched out. Eventually, he'll go 5+ 6 innings. I think he will eventually be fine. So I'm not panicked on Clay Holmes. I'm just kind of lowering the expectations a little bit. You're in a 10-team league, and he's your number 9 pitcher. It's fine. Like, he's not a must-hold in that format. So you want to go for some more upside? I'm going to scratch Mitchell Parker off that list. He doesn't excite me. I like those other guys all better. Jordan Hicks, I think, is probably going to start getting added a lot. I think I'm going to talk about him on the waiver wire video that's going to come out this week. Max Meyer, a ton of upside, big sleeper potential. I mean, you already know who my favorite is here, Soriano. So I am okay dropping him for either Meyer or Soriano. Because they're going to pitch more. Well, Soriano is going to pitch you more innings. Meyer has more strikeout upside. Soriano probably will keep the whip lower. So if you want to think of it that way.
All right, there you go. Thanks for the question, Pink Elephants. All right, now we got Aspen wants to know, is Blake Treinen a must add? He's four relief appearances, has yet to give up a run, has 3 saves, and has only allowed 3 hits in 4 innings and only walked 1 batter with 7 strikeouts. I mean, that sounds like a must-add to me.
Well, I'm not going to say he's a must-add. Here's the thing, and this is why I kept saying Tanner Scott's being overdrafted. Everyone just assumed he got the most money. He was the more, I guess, high-profile add in the bullpen, that he was the closer. It could be anybody. And guess what? Right now it's Treinen, and tomorrow it could be Kirby Yates. And then next week, Bessia, like you already mentioned, somebody else mentioned, has been great. This is the problem. The Dodgers have too many good players. Too many. Spread the wealth. Let somebody else have these good players. Treinen is not a must-add because I don't think he's necessarily the guy, because I don't think they have a guy. They have a lot of guys who could close games. So Treinen is fine to add, but I'm not going to say he's a must-add because I still don't even know if he winds up the end of this year with more than 20 saves.
All right. Well, kind of threw some cold water on the Blake Treinen there a little bit, I guess. But gotta be realistic. All right, Eddie Buzz. Okay, well, first of all, let's go to, is this true? Say, his buddy told him yesterday Freeman got hurt wobble stomping. Is that true?
I mean, I don't know what he was doing in the shower. I know it happened in the shower, but I'm not privy to that information.
All right. Eddie Buzz said he finally caught us. Very happy. Welcome, Eddie. And yes, Wednesday it'll probably be somewhere. Yeah, yep. Wednesday will be the day we'll try to do it for sure. So definitely get it in. And then of course we also do Sunday afternoons. Has a question here. Wants to know, where does Paris? So you talked about Paris here. Where does Paris play when Neto and Joe Adell return? Neto and Adell.
Actually, and I think I saw Adell is already back. He didn't miss much time. Again, utility. He'll play around the diamonds. Neto's going to take a little bit more time to come back, and then he'll play. I mean, right now, second. I'm assuming Christian Moore comes up at some point. But anyways, I think Paris, realistically, his best role is as a utility guy. And then Rengifo, yeah, that's exactly right. He's talking about Rengifo at third, Moore to second. So I just don't know if there's an everyday role for Paris when everybody's healthy. That's the thing.
All right. And then, all right. 127 EMH, welcome back, has a couple questions. Donovan, who I'm rolling out at second base right now, or Castro, who do you prefer as a utility bench multi-position guy? Donovan's been pretty solid until today. He was terrible, but he's been mostly solid so far. Not great, but solid.
Yeah, well, the Twins have been mostly horrible until today or yesterday. I think they finally won a game. I like Castro because he's in there most days, and the Twins have injuries most days. So Castro is going to be a semi-regular guy. Donovan did hit a home run the other day. Donovan is, I don't know why, hitting like in the top part of the order. Donovan's fine. I think Castro is my preference, though.
All right. And then he's got another question. I feel like it's 2024 all over again. Are we still rostering George Springer?
Yeah, I think you have to roster him. Look, obviously the prime is in his past, but he's still valuable. The batting average is not going to be great anymore, but he can get you some power and get you some speed. He'll score some runs. He's got enough value to keep, unless it's a shallow league. I mean, if it's a 10-teamer and you're good at outfield, I mean, you don't have to, but for the most part, yeah.
Yeah, he was on my do not draft list. All right, Uwe2K, what's up? Wants to know, would you drop any or all of Grant Holmes? I dropped Grant Holmes. He got rocked by the Dodgers. Sugano, Blanco, man, did not come through. Wasn't terrible, I guess. Would you? Well, anyways, would you drop any of them for Rasmussen? Not sure what he did. Bubic, Singer, Mize was pretty good. McGill or Meyer? Would you drop any or all of those guys for any of those guys?
Holmes, yes. Drop. A lot of people were really in on him, I guess, just because he had a rotation spot. I was never in on Holmes. So, yeah, drop him. Sugano, I thought, well, he could be nice. He was okay, but he left early. He's not really hurt. He just left early, but his ceiling isn't high. So, for those guys, yeah. So, you can drop those first two pretty easily. Blanco is, I mean, look, he doesn't have maybe the upside of some of those, like a Mize or a Meyer, but I still think he's a solid pitcher. So I'd say I would probably hold Blanco. I like Rasmussen. He's my first choice. I don't know. I feel like Bubic and Singer are traps. I'm not trusting them. And between those last three, it's either Mize or Meyer. So I'm dropping Holmes and Sugano. I'm adding Rasmussen and one of those young pitchers, I guess whoever you feel better about. Probably Meyer.
All right, there you go. Good question, Uwe, as always. Then we got Patrick. What's up? He's in an 18-team league. Saves plus holds. Is it worth holding on to Kimbrell and Robertson when you only have 5 bench spots?
18-teamer. Man. All right. Save plus holds? No, because you don't need a guy who has that closer experience and, could come in and waiting for him to get the call. you can find some really valuable setup guys who are just as important to your fantasy team as a Kimbrel and not wreck your ratios. Because Kimbrel, even if he does get into high leverage situations, I mean, look, we saw this is why the Orioles let him go, right? He's not what he used to be. So I'm not going to take those handful of saves or holds that he might give me, for blowing up my ERA. I mean, look for guys who kind of like what, earlier we had somebody asking about those like closer and waiting. Go for a guy who's in a really good bullpen situation. So like I'm thinking like a Tampa, right? Like a team that knows how to use its bullpen, knows how to get the most out of their arms, even if they're not big name pitchers. Go for those guys, those setup guys instead. So you only have 5 bench spots. No, I think you can use them better than for those guys.
All right, there you go, Patrick. Thank you for the question. All right, Knucklehead Paul, what's up? Welcome back. He's got Jose Ramirez at third base, but he's looking to add some depth behind him right now. He's got Joey Ortiz at the moment. But do you have any suggestions on possible waiver adds in a 12-team league, or would you just stick with Ramirez and Ortiz?
I kind of like Ortiz. I liked Ortiz as a deep value kind of pick, and I think for what you need him for, like a backup for J-Ram, I think that's fine. So he hasn't done much yet, but again, it's been less than a week, and the Brewers happen to be one of those teams that is, I guess to put it nicely, struggling out the gate. Now, also a guy who isn't struggling, but Michael Garcia is a nice option if you can pick him up. He's starting to get added here and there because he's got a couple home runs, but he's still available in a lot of 12-team leagues. So I was actually really big on Garcia last year, and so I kind of was disappointed overall with what he did. So I wasn't really that in on him this year, but now he's lifting the ball, and he's playing pretty much every day. And now he's about to add outfield eligibility along to second base and third base, which is kind of nice to have a utility player like that, which is also why I liked Ortiz, because he qualifies, I think, at third and short, maybe second too. So if Garcia's out there, you can grab him, but Ortiz is fine also.
All right, there you go. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. All right, Devin wants to know, Spencer Torkelson or Nathaniel Lowe, who would you rather have?
What I'm going to say here is while Torque is hot, pick him up, use him if you need him. And then once you start to see the offers and the strikeouts pile up, just cut bait and then go to Lowe.
All right, so roll with Torque for now.
For now.
All right, Uwe2K's got another one. Arias or Bogarts? If you had to drop one in categories, who would you drop?
Well, I guess right now, if Bogarts is looking kind of like his old self, you got to like him better. So I guess you can drop Arias, even though, funny enough, he hit a home run, which is weird. Yeah, I know, right? It's like his one for the year.
Right.
But Bogarts is what, stealing bases? He must be healthy. So let's go with Bogarts as the keeper here. Would you drop Butler? Lawrence Butler?
For Walker or Victor Scott?
I mean, if you have Lawrence Butler, you can't drop Lawrence Butler because you drafted him really high. So if that's who you're talking about, you can't drop Lawrence Butler.
All right. And then Xavier Edwards or Otto Lopez in a categories league?
Edwards.
All right. There you go. All right. Now we got Ilros123. What's up? Yes. Hope your week is going well. Also, who is a better saves holds pitcher? Pagan for Cincinnati or Conley for Detroit? Conley?
Yeah, I don't even know how to say it. Like Conley? I don't know. It's
or
Pagan.
Also throwing in Bender for your Marlins.
No, I'd rather avoid the Marlins. Between those guys, I'll go Pagan. Again, he's the one I feel has the most likely chance to get save opportunities, but also I just feel Best is not going to absolutely, make me miserable.
All right. There you go. And then I think you sort of answered this, but would you rather have Michael Garcia or Mason Wynn as a utility guy?
Well, Garcia is a nice waiver wire add if you need somebody, but Wynn, which maybe you know that the video just came out today, I got Wynn as a buy low. I mean, I'm willing to throw out obviously low, meaning you're not trading anybody significant for him, but I think it's got to be Mason Wynn. Mason Wynn has had a ridiculously bad week. He'll be okay. Like, he'll be okay. So I think it's got to be Wynn.
All right, Devin has another one. Jackson Jobe, who did not have a great first outing, but he wasn't horrible. Or Spencer Arigati for the Houston. Who would you rather have?
I like them both. I'm still going with my guy Arrighetti. I think he's going to be solid all year long. He was good, not great first start. Job, I think, will be fine, but you got to remember he's still a work in progress, right? He doesn't have it all figured out, and I think it just might take a little bit more time. But I like Arrighetti.
All right, now how about somebody who did have a good first outing? Dustin Mays did not, unfortunately, get the quality start, but I think those days are coming. Is he worth a pickup in a 10-team category league?
I think so. In May, of course, you know this. You drafted May. It was a nice pick. And again, with him, like you said, if it's a typical categories league for wins as opposed to quality starts, even better because he's on the Dodgers and they win. I do think it'll come. Like you said, he's a guy again missed the entire season. He's had so many injuries. Yeah, they're going to limit him to maybe 5 innings max at first, but eventually he'll at least hopefully get to 6 some occasions. But yeah, he's going to keep your ratios nice and low. So don't expect a ton of strikeouts, but he's worth picking up.
All right, then speaking of panicking, Uwe 2K's got Wilson Contreras in 2 leagues. How worried are we?
Not too worried. This is a veteran. We already know what he can do. It's a bad week. It's an adjustment for him, you know. Not a major adjustment, but still, it's an adjustment. He's got to get used to. I guess maybe he's in mourning, right? Maybe he's just sad over the loss of his catching job. I don't know. Don't worry too much. Don't drop him.
All right, don't worry too much. And then speaking of worrying, Anthony, what's up, Anthony? Who's crushing me this week, by the way, crushing me in the Endgame League. All right, I feel like it's 2025 or 2024 all over again. Are we worried about Michael Harris again?
Kind of, because I also had Michael Harris, and I know it's just Michael Harris is weird. He's one of those players that everyone just assumes like, oh yeah, he's one of the better, one of your better fantasy outfielders. He's like not a superstar, right? We know he's not a star player, but he's like that next tier. Like, I mean, I feel like we're still assuming that his potential will just all of a sudden burst into a full-blown star-studded season. And I don't know if maybe just what you see is what you get with him. Like, he'll be up and down and he'll miss some games and he's fine. But, like, you're always going to be wanting more. You know what I mean? Like, maybe this is it. I had him as a bust. If you go back and look, 2 months ago, my bust video, I had him as a bust. Not because I think he's going to be bad, like not he's a bad player. I just think he's being drafted way too high. So, yeah, I'm concerned that Michael Harris is just good, not great. Is George Springer worth starting with Jason Dominguez? No, I'm still starting Jason Dominguez. You know what's funny? I had it all prepped, my buy low video yesterday. I was all ready to talk about Jason Dominguez. And then what happened yesterday? He hits a home run and he goes 2 for whatever. So I was like, okay, fine. I can't talk about Jason Dominguez anymore.
Yeah. All right. Now, I know. I assume this is Dustin, man. Had a nice outing, but I don't think you have him ahead of these guys, do you? Rasmussen and Meyer?
Close. Ahead of Meyer, yes. I still think I prefer Rasmussen for now. But it's close.
All right. And now, I speaking of a guy struggling Tristram, what's up? Dylan Cruz.
Of course.
Let's see. He's got 18. What's the good news? He's got 1 run and a walk, and he has stolen a base. That's the good news. The bad news is he has 0 hits, and 10 of his 18 at bats have ended in strikeouts. Yeah. Is he going to start hitting anything? Like the ball? It's like just the ball. Like, is he going to actually make contact with the ball at some point?
Yeah, like okay, so I did put Mason Wynn, who was also hitless going in today, on the buy low. I did not put Dylan Cruz because I think it might take more time, because Dylan Cruz, ironically known for his hit tool, not massive power, right, like James Wood, or not blazing speed. He hasn't really hit for average at the highest level. I got to remember too, even in the minors, when he got moved up, he wasn't hitting over 300. You know, he was good, but maybe he's not ready yet. So I'm not cutting him, but I'm also not buying low. I think he'll hit eventually, but we might have to be patient here.
All right, definitely got to be patient. Devers starting to cook. I mean, he went 2. What did he go? He went 2 for 4 today. Did driving a run, so at least he got off the schneid, right? Got his first hits of the season, so that's good.
There you
that's
go.
Good.
Off the schneid.
Off the schneid. All right, I thought we had one. Okay, well, here we go. Speaking of Dylan Cruz, in a keep 2 in a category league, Dylan Cruz, Cedric Mullins, Mason Wynn, or Matt Shaw. Which 2 are you keeping?
Ooh, now it's getting tough. Because I was about to say don't cut Cruz, but I'm keeping Matt Shaw. I know that. I'm actually going to keep Matt Shaw even over Cruz and those other guys. And he had a couple hits today too, I think. So I think the one I want to keep the most is Shaw. After that, man, I mean, Cruz definitely has the most upside of these, although I say that and it's not like a huge advantage. Why do you have to drop 2 of these guys? Look, I know Mullins has been the most productive out of those 3 so far, but I don't think I'm going to drop Cruz and Win to keep Mullins. So, man, I think I'm actually going to go. I think I'm going to go Shaw and Win.
All right, there you go. Shaw and Win it is. All right. I think we're caught up. I think we are all caught up on the questions here, unless we have any last minute ones. See if we got anything here. No, just some good chat in the comments going back and forth. All right, well, Iwi2K's got one real quick. CJ Abrams is available, but he's got Ellie. Would you drop any of Arias, Berger, Ozuna, Josh
available,
Naylor?
Like on the waiver wire?
I assume so, because he's saying he could drop any of Arias, Berger, Ozuna, or Josh Naylor.
Was it him or was it somebody else? Remember last time they were like, "Oh, Jose Altuve just got dropped." Was it him or was it?
Was it him? I was somebody. I remember that. Yeah.
Look, if this is the same league, you got to get in a more competitive league. I'm just gonna say that, or a deeper league. There's no way CJ Abrams should be available except for in a trade. I'll drop not Ozuna, but any of those others. I'll drop Arias to get Abrams. Yeah.
All right, there you go. Now Tristram has another one. When will Luis Garcia escape his platoon? Or will he ever escape his platoon?
I don't know if he will. Luis Garcia is another player. I mean, he had a good season. I like him. He's a good player, but I think a lot of people just look at last season and assume, okay, another step forward. I think what you saw is probably what you're getting. So I wouldn't say he was overdrafted. He wasn't drafted early, but in some cases he was. But no, I don't know that he does become an everyday player.
All right. And then Anthony wants to know, Gunnar Henderson coming off IL tomorrow. Is he going to play? What do you think? Do you have any ideas? Any word here?
He should. I mean, I thought he was already going to be active. So I'm going to assume yes, but don't quote me because I don't know.
All right. So it looks like we're all caught up now. We're right at the hour mark, actually. Okay, I guess one more from Ilros here. Is Ryan McMahon droppable? He's got Marcelo Meyer, Garcia waiver for win.
Yeah. Yeah, there are not many Rockies players that are must holds. Maybe Brenton Doyle, Tovar. Yeah, you don't have to keep McMahon. You can get as much upside from those guys.
All right, guys, that's it. We're at the hour mark. Answered a ton of questions tonight. Appreciate you guys as always. Hopefully the rest of the week goes well for everybody. You take home those victories, except for Anthony, because I'm playing you. You can win your other leagues, Anthony, just not this one.
Right.
And don't forget, we will be back here Sunday evening/night for 2-start streamers and answering more questions. And of course, if you haven't checked out the videos yet, we got Panic is out. Beat the Breakout is out. I think, is Bilo out, or is that coming out tomorrow?
It's out. And then waiver wire next.
Waiver wire is next. Got to stay active in fantasy baseball. That's how you win. So keep it here, of course, all season long. And we'll be back on Sunday, answer more of your questions, get you ready for next week. Have a great night, everybody. And let's hope for lots of fantasy points for all of you. We'll see you on Sunday.